Spectre Vision Radio.
It really picked up after he fell asleep. So the doors were slamming, and then that's when I started hearing the knocking. So I heard like a knock, knock. It started on the door to the farthest side of the suite and then worked its way counterclockwise to ours, ending with the room we were in. I hated that. Someone would have had to been waiting in one of those rooms for at least a couple of hours, because that's how long it took Daniel to fall asleep. The knocking really freaked me out.
They claim that our eyes will just be created a slightly different from what they are. When we talk, we see things are not normal.
Welcome to Strange Familiars. On tonight's show, I'm going to be talking with Joel, who has this really eerie story of a night he spent in the basement of a dorm and the poltergeist activity he experienced when he was down there. Pretty interesting because, like in some of these stories we have, Joel's friend just fell asleep and he couldn't wake him up. Very, very strange. I also talk with Joel about the Hatman, tarot, and more. Just wanted to remind everybody about our blanket drive for Pine Ridge. $40 buys a nice wool blanket that we can donate to the folks at Pine Ridge. If you go to oppossumpouch.com, that's OPOSSUMPOUCH.com, you'll see a link right there on the front page to the Pine Ridge blanket drive. I want to thank Chad at Ruck Rabbit, of course, and Jay at Opossum Pouch for helping put this together. These are super nice wool blankets. $40 is Opossum Pouch's cost on those blankets. And Opossum Pouch is covering the shipping. When you order at Opossum Pouch, you will have to put an address in. You'll have to put your address in. It should match your credit card. But don't worry, if you're using the link for the Pine Ridge blanket drive, the blanket will go to Pine Ridge. There's also links in the show notes if you want to go there, or if you forget the website at strangefamiliars.com, there'll be links there as well. This blanket drive we're going to keep open until Black Friday. After Black Friday, we'll close it down. However many blankets we sold, we'll send along. Happy to do this, and I'd like to thank everybody who's helped so far. All right, let's go ahead and get to Joel's stories. I'd like to welcome Joel to Strange Familiars. How you doing tonight?
Doing great. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Excited to get these stories of yours. So, At what point in your life did these things start?
Let's see. I think the classic answer is it probably has been happening my whole life, and I haven't really been paying attention. I used to have really intense dreams as a kid. Night terrors, depending on the house we were living in at the time. I've always just been a little bit sensitive, but it's been not that. Other than weird dreams, and I had really no experience to the paranormal. Except for I did see a UFO very, very briefly in New Mexico. Very, very briefly, but I don't know if that counts specifically.
How old were you?
I was like 8 or 9.
Interesting. That's when I saw a UFO. My first UFO.
Nice.
At that age, so.
It's the only one. It's the only one I've seen. It's crazy too, because it was kind of like Flight of the Navigator. It looked kind of like that. It was just lazily rolling between two clouds, and then that was it.
Interesting. And were you outside? Was it nighttime, daytime?
We were driving back home from my grandparents who lived in Artesia, which is in southeast New Mexico. We were driving towards Texas back to Houston. I think it was in New Mexico or in Texas, but I'm pretty sure it's New Mexico. My mom was driving. I was laying down in the back seat. It's the only reason I could see it. And then as soon as I saw it, I was like, it was like that Bill Murray quote, "No one will ever believe you." So I never talked about it.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Wow.
But yeah, so like I said, I saw it and then not a lot, but then this experience was pretty intense. This happened in 2008. I was in college I just started school. People will figure out what school it is. I imagine they won't care. They'll take any publicity they can get. It's a very small Christian school in Nashville.
Okay.
And I started going there, and I was there for a couple months. I had been living in that building for a couple of months and the dorms there. So that's why I thought this was a especially strange experience.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially what happened was there's like a little event where they were telling spooky, scary stories at this thing. A bunch of like older students were telling their like ghost stories from around campus. I didn't believe any of it, obviously. I just started school there, so I figured this was like, you know, like a very subtle kind of hazing kind of thing where they're going to try to scare us or something.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Immediately I was on guard and immediately I was hyper skeptical. But they told some really cool stories. The one I really remember is the Hatman one. There was the radio DJ at the time, back when they had a student radio station. He was a DJ at night and he would hear stuff all the time. But one time he heard something and then he got up to see what it was, and he looked down the hall and the lights were off at the end of the hall, but he just saw like a shadow figure underneath the glowing red of the exit sign.
Oh, wow.
It's like this scary, ominous thing. I remember that visual impression stuck with me super hard. But anyway, like I said, they told these stories. It was pretty fun. It was cute, whatever. And then at the end of the night, they all like, hey, write your names, put in this fishbowl, we'll draw names, and 2 of y'all can spend the night in the basement at the dorms. And I was like, yeah, that sounds incredibly easy. I've been living in this building for like 2 months at that point. So I was like, yeah, other than one really intense lucid dream experience that I had absolutely no inkling or understanding of what was going on. But me and a buddy of mine, calling him Daniel, we're both just kind of nerdy dudes. Our names got drawn. I never get my name drawn for anything. So I was like, yeah, nice. I'll get to bust these guys. You know what I mean? Like I was ready to catch somebody in the act of trying to fool us.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah.
And so I had a plan ready. I knew where I was going to sit and everything. So I had a plan ready. Anyway, we get our mattresses and we get down there, and the guy taking us down, there's this guy. Oh, I can't remember his name. I'm going to make up a name. We're going to call him Bill. I'm trying to remember that. Anyway, Bill's a really, really sweet religion major. He was a senior, a very, very sincere guy. But it was one of those things where like, I didn't know him that well. I got an impression of him, but I wasn't sure what was really going on. He prayed for us before we went in the room, and it was like this really intense prayer. And he laughed when he was praying, kind of like someone's holding fireworks and they're about to set off fireworks in their hand and they're laughing because of how dumb this is. You know what I mean? Like it was like,
wow,
what are we doing? Kind of laugh.
Wow.
And I was like, he's just acting. He's probably just a really good actor. It's fine. Anyway, we got in there within, 30 seconds. Immediately I started hearing stuff in the ceiling. I lay my mattress down on the floor. Real quick side note about the layout of these dorms. It is a suite of rooms. So there's a main room, and then there are 4 rooms that kind of surround it. And there's a bathroom off in the corner. We were in the far right, or if you're coming in the far left room. I picked a spot on the floor where I could see underneath the door into the suite and all the way across the wall of the hallway. So anyone that was walking outside the door, I would have seen it. Anyone walking into the suite, I would have seen it. I was so confident. I was so cocky. And then, like I said, there were noises in the ceiling that started, and they were really strange. The best way I can describe them was like, it sounded like someone was twisting pipes, like inside the socket, like rusty metal was scraping against itself.
Oh, wow. So not mice or something running to the ceiling.
That's what I mean. It was persistent, and it was coming from 2 or 3 different places. And, I'm thinking like, oh, you can hear when people are scraping furniture up above, and there's a room directly above us. And I was like, yeah, they're making noises. They're being cute. That's fine. It was a weird noise. I didn't know how they were making that noise. Like I said, it was coming from 2 or 3 different spots, and it was continuous all night. Stuff started happening. I don't know if Daniel was paying attention. He started talking nervously. We both started talking nervously, I guess. He's definitely more of a nervous talker, and I'm an excellent listener. So I was just listening. And he started talking, and we started hearing doors open and shut on both sides of the hall. We are in the suite that is there's 4 suites, so we're in one of the middle 2. So there are rooms on both sides.
So this basement wasn't occupied?
The basement was not occupied. This was suspiciously unoccupied. It was used for furniture storage. And it was so weird. Some of the rooms still had furniture in them. The suite we stayed in, the room next to us had this really creepy recliner in it. And it was not like, it's creepy because I remember it now and I remember being like, I don't like that chair and I don't know why.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I don't know if that has anything to do with it. I just didn't like that chair. But yeah, we heard the doors are opening and shutting. I mean, on both sides of the hall, continuously, bam, 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 bam. Daniel's talking, he's trying to distract himself. And he's talking, and while he's talking, the door straight across the hallway from us, from the suite across from us, opens and shuts super loud. And it's like startles both of us, and he stops talking, and he completely loses his train of thought. And I have to prompt him to continue talking because he'd forgot how to talk.
Were you able to see this door open and shut?
Yeah, I saw the shadow of the door move, and I didn't see any feet. No one was running across the hallway. You know what I mean? So either, there could have been some very acrobatic maneuvering. So like I said, it's kind of an Occam's razor thing where it's like either there were 4 people with a very elaborate plan and they executed it perfectly, or this place is like super haunted.
Right.
Like I said, that's happening. So the things happen in the ceiling, the doors are slamming outside, Dave's talking. At some point, Daniel just falls asleep. He just completely falls asleep, starts snoring really quickly.
Huh.
Can't wake him up. I didn't go over to touch him or anything. I was just yelling at him.
How many other people were there with you?
It was just me and him. It was just me and him in the dorm.
Oh.
The senior that took us down there, he left. So everyone was gone.
Wow. Okay.
And I was like, this is a weird time to fall asleep.
Yeah, it is. But
Super weird
this
time.
happens.
Yeah. It really picked up after he fell asleep. I mean, it was so the doors were slamming, and then that's when I started hearing the knocking. So I heard like a knock on, it started on the door to the farthest side of the suite and then worked its way counterclockwise to ours, ending with the room we were in.
Huh.
I hated that. And like I said, I was looking at the door. Someone would have had to been waiting in one of those rooms for at least a couple of hours because that's how long it took Daniel to fall asleep. So yeah, it was just wild. So the knocking really freaked me out. I think the second time or the knocking, I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to go to sleep. I'm just going to try to power sleep. I was so terrified to look out. There's a window behind my head. I was terrified to look out the window. I was 100% certain something was looking at me through that window.
Wow. Did the window face outside or into another room?
Yes.
Yeah.
It faced outside into the parking lot.
Okay.
So I was like, I'm not going to deal with this. I'm just going to go to sleep. I'm just going to power sleep through this, or I'm just going to not react. So I laid down on the mattress and I closed my eyes and I just kind of covered the sheet. And then I felt someone pushing on my left shoulder, waking me up, gently, but very persistently, kind of like a push. And I was like, that's not cool. I sat up, and as I sat up, I braced myself with my arm where my shoulder had been, and I felt the mattress springs moving just underneath my shoulder, moving up and down.
Wow.
It was what? That wasn't as scary as it was just weird.
Yeah.
That was just why did I feel it in my shoulder and then it was in the mattress? It was just so strange.
You feel your shoulder being tapped.
It's pushing my shoulder into the mattress.
Yeah. And the so in my mind, when you said it moved, I was under the impression as if someone was sitting there, and there was pressure on it, but it didn't move like that.
No, I would say it moved with the same rhythm as someone pushing, someone was pushing on the mattress.
Okay,
weird.
Okay, all right, wow, yeah, that's odd.
Yeah, the same rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
It was, it's very, very strange. Like I said, it was more odd than scary, but I was so freaked out the whole time. And at that point, I was just I'm gonna look out the window, just to make sure there's nothing out there. And there was nothing out there. And I think after I looked out the window, everything kind of quieted down. And I think I've either just fell asleep for a few minutes to an hour against the wall or back on the mattress, because I woke up and the sun was coming up. And then as soon as I saw the sun was coming up, I grabbed my mattress and left.
Huh.
I don't remember if Daniel woke up. I think I might have left him in there. I really don't remember. Because I was I had a terrible night. I grabbed my mattress. I went up to my dorm and I slept through the rest of all the classes of that day. I was a wreck. I was done with it. And it messed me up for years.
Really?
yeah, it completely, it completely kind of like destroyed my sense of spirituality, anything that I kind of understood or thought I understood. It felt it felt so random, and it felt so predatory, like something feeding off of me. At least at the time, that's how I felt.
Okay. Yeah.
The reason I sent the story in, because, sometimes you get sad, sometimes I get the sad, and I was in a little bit of a rut. So I did a heroic dose of the psilocybin mushrooms.
Mm-hmm.
It was incredible. It was an incredible experience. But it was only after that experience that I realized that there was a lot of weird similarities between that and the experience I had with the poltergeist, or whatever it was. So basically, it was like the poltergeist was there's something kind of dreamlike too. It was like I was trapped in one of my nightmares, and as a kid, I learned how to wake myself up from the really bad nightmares, but I couldn't wake up from that. I was already awake.
Yeah.
So I had to sit there and just endure it. I had to sit there and just be there because I was paralyzed. I couldn't get up. I was not opening that door. I was not trying to get out. There was no way I could have gotten out of there.
Wow.
But it felt like the same thing when I had the other experience, the positive spiritual experience, where I was just bombarded with the creative force of love. You know what I mean? It was like, instead of a fire hose of fear, it was a fire hose of love. And
well, I mean, it's like Brother Richard says, whatever this stuff is, it seems like it uses the same channels to get through. Yeah.
I think so. And it took me a while, but I realized that a lot of that energy is like that. It just depends on how you look at it. It's the same kind of energy depending on which channel it's flowing through.
Interesting.
That makes sense.
Yeah. If we could step back to the poltergeist thing just for a moment.
Yes.
First of all, the fact that your friend fell asleep and you couldn't wake him up, that's classic paranormal. I mean,
it was incredible.
Yeah.
When the knocking happened, I yelled for him to wake up because I was like, you got to hear this.
Right.
And he snored when I yelled his name. Like he snored like a cartoon at me. It was crazy.
Huh.
And then the next morning I tried to touch base with him and try to figure out what was going on. And he was like, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? I could tell he had dismissed all of it as nothing. You know what I mean? I could tell that he'd forgotten, or he'd totally dismissed it. He didn't forget. He was being stubborn about it.
Wow. See, it wasn't for him.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever that means.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Yeah, whatever that
That's
means.
what I'm like. Well, yeah.
Wow. Okay. So did you ever touch base with the people who led you down there to stay the night?
Yeah, later. I thought that okay, they're going to come and tell me it was a prank. I don't know how, but they're going to come and tell me, and no one talked to me.
Right. So that's the thing. I'm thinking if you're college kids and you're doing that to somebody, you're going to let them go through it.
Yeah.
And you might let them go a day or two, but at some point somebody's going to be, haha, we got you.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
And there was also the thing of that means that there was somebody in the room above us moving furniture around for 5 hours, and at least 2, if not 4 people in the hallway opening and shutting doors for 4 or 5 hours. I mean,
right.
It's continuous.
That is a commitment.
Yeah.
To just try to mess with people.
I mean, they don't drink or anything. So they definitely, have time on their hands that I'm just saying, this is not the level of commitment that they had,
Right. And let's say, they're in kabuki clothes and you can't see them and they've arranged this perfectly. And I don't believe that's what happened, but let's just say that can maybe explain the doors and the knocking, et cetera, et cetera. But how do you explain the thing that's tapping on you?
Yeah. How do you do the mattress? You can't do any of that.
Yeah.
You just say, oh, you were scared and you imagined it, and be like, yeah, sure, maybe. I don't know. I'm pretty good at discerning reality.
Yeah, no, it seems like a genuine experience. So if and when you touch base with them again, did you tell them about it, or did you say have you other people had stuff happen down there?
I mean, yeah, when I saw Bill, he was just like, yeah, it's crazy down there. It's everyone. Yeah. Anyone who's been down there's hated it. It's I haven't really been able to find anyone else to compare notes, because I think people were living down there, because the building, let me see, was open in 1974. There was nothing there before. It was just empty field. There's train tracks there that were built probably around 1905, 1910, something like that. But that was it. And like I said, only the basement had any of this activity, but it was every room in the basement.
Wow.
From what I could tell and for what people were telling me.
Yeah. And there was no either real story or urban legend story about anything, anybody dying or anything spooky happening there.
Not that I was told. I wanted to ask, but yeah, I'd have to dig and try to find out. I
don't
still
think
have
it matters.
connections.
I mean,
I don't think it matters either.
if it does, it'd be an interesting thing, like maybe some that energy goes into it, but I truly don't think it matters.
I don't think so either. It's so interesting because I went and did a deep dive in the history of this place because the history that I got from that event that night was very incomplete and incorrect.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to go and look up stuff. And I looked up a ton of stuff. And there's a lot of stuff that happened there, but it's one of those things where does the stuff happen because of what's already there? Or is the stuff there because of what happened?
Right.
The same kind of thing with the quote unquote like Indian burial ground thing. Like to me, if you want to do like an anthropologist brain, it makes sense to me that like an ancient nomadic people or hunter-gatherer or people kind of like move around a certain area, they might bury their dead in the place where it will see them again. You know what I mean? Like they know that if they bury their dead here, they'll see them more often in their dreams, or they'll see them more often just out and about. I don't know. Don't ask me. I don't have any answers.
Yeah. No, it's all very interesting. And did you ever go back down into the space?
Not yet, but I want to. I've been feeling weirdly called to.
Do you still have access to it?
I believe so. My brother-in-law's dad he's still part of the administrative staff there. And I still know several people because a lot of people I went to school with work there now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's something I really, really want to do. I'm absolutely kind of terrified to do it, but I also know that I'm not the same little soft-bellied hermit crab I was before.
Well, if I was close, I would volunteer to do it with you.
Oh yeah, you'll be the first to know when I do it. I'll try to record at least the audio.
Yeah, I would say take recorders, please. If you can access two, I'd put one outside and one with you inside.
Yeah, that's the thing. I would like to do cameras, but cameras are weird, right? I feel like cameras, you don't get as good as stuff with cameras.
Yeah, so I've interviewed one person recently, and he's a known person, and his story was kind of personal, and the two of us were trying to decide the best way to present it, so I don't want to out him here. But I had been on a podcast somewhere with him previously, and I said, yeah, you can't photograph this stuff. And he pushed back really hard, and he didn't really say why. He said, no, I think you can. And I was like, no, in my experience, you can't. And we kind of had just a brief back and forth, But he pushed back pretty hard on me. And I understand why, because recently he started sending me photographs of UFOs that he's taken, and he has quite a quantity of them. And they're surprisingly good. Like clear, interesting things that definitely aren't planes and aren't satellites. And he has multiple of them. He sent me, I don't know, a half dozen or more, and he says, I have way more than this. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's almost like he has permission to film, but
yes,
but I don't, because every time I try, I get nothing. I get nothing. My example is the lights at Site 7. We'll see them; they'll be red, green, blue, whatever, these colors, and they'll be moving around. And we try to film them, and on the screen they just white dots, completely unimpressive. So it seems like maybe some people are allowed, but my general recommendation is don't try to film it, or you're going to kill the activity.
Yeah, it's true. So like a couple months later, on a separate day, I took a bunch of my friends at the school. I took them to a place that I knew was pretty haunted. Franklin, Tennessee is an incredibly haunted place. The Battle of Franklin was super, super gnarly. The entire town was covered with dead. But I mean, like before that, it was haunted before that. Like there are houses that were built in the 1820s that have had constant activity since. And like, it'll be in like an entire block will have activity. It's so weird.
Yeah. See, that's Gettysburg had stuff happening before the battle.
That's what I mean about the like somewhere the location.
Yep.
Already having something up with it.
And the question is, did it draw the battle to it in a sense?
Yeah, that part, that these sections have really good, memories. Like, just exactly. Remembering.
Exactly.
We went at night it's called Carney Plantation. It's notoriously haunted. And we were just walking around and we were hearing noises everywhere. We walked out by the slave cabins. My roommate took a couple of photographs with his digital camera. And we walked a little bit further, and over by the creek bed, I heard noises I cannot explain. I heard a creature that should not exist in that part of the world. I heard I don't even know what you'd call it. I don't even know what kind of sound. It was like a growling. It was feline, but not.
Huh.
I don't know. That could be anything. That's not the real spooky one. The real spooky sound was, I heard what I could swear was a kalimba, like a really badly tuned, old sounding kalimba.
Wow.
And it was just like plunk, plunk, plunk.
So for people who don't know,
plunk.
this is a instrument with African roots.
Yes, this is I believe it's West Africanish. It's a wooden hollow kind of bowl with metal tongues
sometimes
on it.
made from a gourd, but yeah.
Yes, yeah, any sort of hollow, anything that you can hollow out. And yeah, you plunk on it and the sound reverberates through it. I love, my dad has one. I love a kalimba.
Oh yeah, they're great.
They're super cool. But it was not a fun kalimba. That was a bad kalimba.
Okay.
It was a very atonal.
It's a distinct sound too.
And that's what I mean. Like, that's not a sound that's like, oh yeah, no, that's a sound I'm going to hear in nature. And even a wind chime, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
You have to press down, and the plunking sound is so specific.
Yeah, it's very unique kind of sound.
Yeah.
It's hard to mistake anything else for that.
Yeah, exactly. So we're all spooked. We left. My roommate looked at the pictures he took, and there were orbs everywhere. I mean, thousands and thousands. I mean, dust, whatever. But he used that camera a lot that year, and no pictures he took, outside pictures, ever looked like that.
Right.
But they were like golden orbs, out of focus, everywhere, like just everywhere. I should have been sneezing if that was articles. You know what I mean? Like I've got some allergy, asthma things happening. So I would have had some reaction if it was pollen or if it was dust, because that's what it kind of looked like. There was so much of it. But anyway, yeah, that's another weird one. But yeah, the building, the school real quick, I wanted to talk about the history real quick, just because there's so much of it. It's so interesting. Because the buildings, a lot of the original buildings exist anymore. The last original building was torn down, I believe, in the 50s or the 60s. So anyway, basically the plot of land was bought by a Civil War veteran. And then after it passed out of his family, kind of got split up. One part went to the Catholic Church for an orphanage that was run by St. Mary's, and I also believe St. Cecilia. So anyway, it was the White Robe Nuns.
Okay.
And they were there until 1905 when they got a much bigger thing. But during that time, I want to say like half a dozen pandemics occurred, including cholera and yellow fever. Mostly cholera, a lot of cholera. There were a lot of really bad cholera outbreaks during Reconstruction. But there was a really bad yellow fever pandemic that happened in the 1870s that just destroyed a lot of people in Memphis, and a lot of people came to Nashville, and it was like this whole thing. One of the stories I'm remembering was not a white lady, but it was like a white thing. Mm-hmm. Like someone saw there's a white thing that someone sees in one of the girls' dorms, which are apparently also extremely poltergeisty. I have not been able to verify that, but there's like some area, like the kitchen, apparently, and one of them is just like the cabinet's open all the time, and some people don't want it flung in there. The more I talk about it, the more I need to do a proper investigation, I think, just because there is kind of a Protestant ethos to completely ignore this kind of thing, I feel like. And maybe it's just like an American, I'm too busy for worry about that. I got to put food on the table. I can't worry about, ghosts and whatnot.
Sometimes, yeah. So I think sometimes it's just, people being necessarily practical,
It is hard to worry about the ghosts if your Maslow hierarchy of needs has not been met. Like,
right. As many people as we've had haunted houses, sometimes people say, well, why didn't you just move? You can't always just pick up and move. Like,
no,
moving costs money, and sometimes for whatever reason, you got to stay and you got to deal with it.
It's true. Part of the reason why I'm telling the stories, because I believe so many more people have stories like this that they just completely they store away. They stuff it down and they don't think about it, because it's everywhere. Those kind of things are everywhere. After the orphanage left that school, it became a sanitarium for about 20 years. It became the City View Sanitarium. And the sanitarium used the original building of the orphanage, and then they added a new building for what would be the women's dorm. And the well that was dug there, this is another thing that I want to try to figure out. The well was there until the 60s, according to the Sanborn fire maps. So that means that underneath that parking lot or those buildings, there's an old well.
Mm-hmm.
And that well, that's where where I had the activity is kind of far away from everything, which makes it kind of strange. But most of the school is kind of it's an entire little cluster where the original buildings are. And the administration building, which is where on the site of the original orphanage, that building is, I've been told, is extremely haunted, but because it's not really occupied at night, no one really cares. And there's not a ton of activity in the day. But there's a women's dorm that's like really close by, the oldest women's dorm, and that's the super haunted one. What's interesting about this location, I believe, is the amount of poltergeists and the strength of the poltergeist, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
As far as sustained level of activity and just persistent, I guess.
Well, I mean, what you're describing is like incredibly liminal. People are moving in and moving out. They're using it for different things. Everything they're using it for is very interesting. You know, you have emotion and all of that bound up into all of these things. It seems like the perfect storm here.
It is. It's interesting. Yeah, it's those dorms make great batteries because they're just filled with angst and repression.
And constantly changing. People are moving in and out.
Yeah, completely fascinating. I started listening to your show a while back when it was more Bigfoot-y.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that when you first were talking about like outdoor poltergeists.
Yeah.
Because the story that I remember was so good. There's people, they were camping and they heard really loud noises and something invisible like roared in their face and they could smell it. It was super like viscerally, they could smell it, they could hear it, but they couldn't see it. And it was like running around and it just, what is I guess here's my question. Why do indoor ghosts and outdoor ghosts act different? Because I do feel like,
in some ways, so the Class B Bigfoot experience is a 1-to-1 with the poltergeist experience. You get knocking, you get bad smells, you get unknown language, you get, even in poltergeist stuff, stones are thrown inside of houses.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes people pick them up and they're warm.
Teleportation,
That happens in Bigfoot stuff. You say, oh, Bigfoot was holding it. That's why it's warm. It's the same thing. It's really a 1-to-1 comparison. And then, why does it manifest, these other traits that are separate? I don't, your guess is as good as mine.
It does seem like partially subjective to the person experiencing it.
I believe so. Absolutely.
Yeah. Like the school children in the 90s in Africa that had that encounter, they all saw the same thing, but they were, they reported slightly seeing different things. And I think the same thing happened with, there was a UFO encounter at that. There was a base, there was an a military base in England. And the two soldiers went and they were checking out this craft that had landed. And one of them saw all this stuff and one of them just saw a bunch of lights.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no. John and I at Site 7, I'm nearly positive we were looking at the same light. And I don't even know why I asked him this. I asked him what he saw, and he said it looked like an orb the size of a ping pong ball glowing. And that's not what I saw.
Wow.
I saw a light, but it looked like an LED light floating in front of him.
That's cool.
Yeah, so like that happened real time for me. I couldn't see any other light, and he was reaching for it. He was actually trying to grab it. And
nice.
So I'm 90% sure we were looking at the same thing and seeing something different. So I know it happens.
It's like a Schrodinger's cat thing where it feels both real and not real at the same time. And And that's kind of where the magic of it is. It's also why it's so hard for people to believe it that haven't experienced it because of that subjective component.
Yeah. The way I've been kind of thinking about it is we live in a sort of sandbox, and that sandbox that we've decided, in general, especially in the West, to live in is the sandbox of material science. And it's a really big sandbox. And inside that sandbox, materialist science rules because it works, and it works every time. If you throw a ball up in the air, it's going to fall down. Every time it will work inside that sandbox. But what's around that sandbox? There's a lot of air above it. There's a lot of things all around it. And these other things that don't play by that rule, they kind of fade in and out. And we're like, well, wait a minute. And we try to repeat these things, and you can't because they're not playing by the materialist science rules, but here we live. And if someone's going to lock themselves into it, that's why we're always going to lose against the skeptics when we try to prove this stuff, because they're sitting in the middle of the materialist science sandbox. They've got all the rules. It works for them,
Yeah.
So
exactly.
Yeah.
Man, yeah. It's wild. Okay, so I brought up Hatman earlier, and I bring him up because I've never seen Hatman personally.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see him. I think that'd be cool. My eyes don't see this stuff. I feel it super hard, and I hear stuff, but I don't see it with my eyes. I don't really understand it.
No, it's not. That again isn't unusual. Go,
Okay,
I don't want to interrupt your
sure.
flow, but yeah, I can expound on that too.
No, that's great. I defer to your knowledge because you have a lot of it.
It's just from talking to a million people, but I've heard that exact phrase before.
That
I felt
it makes
the ghost. I felt it. Octavian had this wonderfully symbolic dream where we were together and we were out looking for Bigfoot, and I told him in the dream, "You can't look at them. I'll draw them for you. I'll draw them for you. You can look at my drawings, but you can't look at them." And he got frustrated and looked. And what he saw was a Bigfoot that was getting ready to punch him in the face. And he woke up, in
we're off rule.
sort of in terror. But he said that it was a symbolic representation of when we go out, because often he doesn't get to see the things that I see. And
Yeah.
when this episode we did with the fading black form, when we were up in Schuylkill, it was very definite for me. And he kept saying, I think I see it. I don't know. I think I see it. I'm like, no. It's right there. It's blacker than the night around it, fading in and out. And luckily the guy that hosted us, he came out onto the porch and he saw it too. He saw it right away.
Nice.
And he was like, yeah, there it is. And Octavian could see it sometimes. He was like, I think I see, okay, I see it. No, now it's not. But he just wasn't locking in on it the way I was, So I do think there's something to that some people, and maybe it's something you need to develop. Maybe it's, like I say, maybe it's like a skill, you can develop, and some people just have it more natural. I don't know. I always want to be clear that I don't think anybody has magic powers. So I think the stuff is available to all of us. And I think it just might come easier to some people. And that's really all it is,
Yeah. Some people are naturally can just do a bunch of push-ups, and some people got to work at it.
Right. I can draw.
Yeah.
I always could draw.
And I can't. But yeah, I probably could if I learned, but it probably still wouldn't be that good.
You could get a lot better. I guarantee it. Like if you,
I guarantee you.
if you practice and practice and practice, you could get a lot better. You may never be, whatever level. Whatever. But you could get a lot better. I guarantee you can get a lot better.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I recently started playing music again after many years of not playing music. And it was, depending on the instrument, the same thing. Banjo, immediately got banjos. My friend, I get it, but the violin, different story.
Me too. Banjo clicked for me.
Yeah.
I'd been playing guitar for years and I picked up a banjo. I was like, oh, this makes sense.
It does. There's something about it.
And I just got it. There are other people who pick up a banjo and like, what is this?
Yeah.
Like, how do you do that? I'm like, no, it's so easy. Yeah.
And it's true. And everyone plays it different. I don't care who you are. I play with professionals all the time. I jam with them, and some of them are my friends, but every single person who plays banjo plays it slightly different.
Yep.
Even the bluegrass players.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, sorry. Where was I? Hatman.
Yeah.
Okay. So I've never seen Hatman, but Hatman seems to have been surrounding some stuff in my life. So like I said, it was someone had seen him at the school, and then years pass, and I've moved several times since then. was trying to remember, I was trying to track down this thing. So basically I started getting woken up by the double knocking that I heard that night. Years and years later, this started happening. I think it was in the house I moved into in Antioch.
So the knocking you heard in the basement of the school.
Yes. So
Okay.
the knocking I heard on the doors, on each
Okay.
of the doors, it stayed with me, the 2 knocks. It stayed with me because it was also like, I was expecting 3 knocks because 3 is it's making fun of the Trinity. You know what I mean? Like I was expecting that from all of the Conjuring movies I've seen, but and I got 2. That's okay. I would hear it on the window next to my head and it would wake me up out of like a really bad dream usually.
Huh.
And it happened a couple times. It was during kind of a stressful personal situation at that house, and I ended up having to leave. It was a friend group situation kind of turned sour. You know, stuff happens. Artists are artists. What are you going to do?
Yeah. Yeah. Temperamental people.
Yes. And I myself to blame as well as them. It was mutual.
Mm-hmm.
But I ended up, moving in with my current partner. I didn't hear it for a while. And then I started hearing it again once moved into the house we currently are in. So we moved into this house right before the pandemic, I want to say. So I would say probably 2021. It just started ramping up. We started hearing pacing in the attic at the single-story house. Where there was pacing was above the bedroom and the living room, and the ceiling is about 2 feet high right there in the attic. So it's not possible for anyone to walk up there.
Right.
And these are heavy footprints. I would hear heavy footprints. We would hear stuff just in the house all the time. And part of it, the house is old, but it was just weird. I felt like I was being watched constantly, all the time. I felt very unnerved. I was having sleep paralysis. My partner was also having sleep paralysis.
Did you ever have it before?
Yeah. And I didn't know that's what it was. The first time I experienced it was a kid, was when I was having a nightmare and I was forcing myself to wake up from the nightmare.
Okay.
And I just remember my eyes were fluttering, but I couldn't move my body. And I was waking up, but my body was still really wanting me to be asleep.
Mm-hmm.
It became a thing. It kind of paired with the nightmares. So that happened. I stopped sleeping on my back, but it was still having nightmares and stuff. And every time I'd hear the knocking on the window in the house I'm in, and I sleep right next to this window right here. And this window is about 9 feet above the ground, and directly underneath it is a very large 50-year-old HVAC system that sticks out about 4 or 5 feet from the house and is it's several feet high. So it's like, if you're going to knock on this window, you're jumping on the HVAC or you are a medical anomaly. Like you need to be studied.
Right.
But yeah, so like I said, I didn't hear anything, and I would hit the windows right by my head. So I would look immediately and it'd be nothing. And we would think where it's like, did I even hear it or was that in my dream? I was hearing it. It got to the point where my partner was, one night I was having sleep paralysis, and she looked out the bedroom door, which was open, and she saw a shadow figure whose legs basically reached the ceiling, bending at the waist and looking into the room.
So creepy. So
And
creepy.
he was wearing a wide brim hat, like a very large hat man. It was a big hat man.
Wow. I've heard similar things. People just things bending down and looking into people's rooms. It's so creepy.
He like to just hang that out there. He never, comes in and just, he's not like the flannel man. He's not coming in and sitting and looking at your bed or,
Right.
eating out of your fridge or whatever. Hat man's very mysterious. He's like I feel like he's like there's something Men in Black about him. There's something very weird in that kind of something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that was happening. Like I said, I was feeling like I was going through a mental health thing. And after that poltergeist experience, I had to kind of completely reevaluate my whole spirituality. I was pretty much a Christian at that point. I'd been raised a Southern Baptist, and I was like my version of that, which, was very much still into science and stuff. And there was room for it, but there's a lot of it was very allegorical. A lot of it's very like, whatever. It was something I grew up with,
Sure.
It's like a artifact of childhood.
Mm-hmm.
Then, you have to figure that out for yourself, but it was just a thing. I was trying to figure it out. I grew up in the late 80s, early 90s. Satanic panic was a big thing. My parents were very young, Southern Baptists. They loved Dr. James Dobson. So it's like whatever trend, whenever he said was bad, like, that's what they hopped on.
Mhm.
So I spent a lot of my 20s and early 30s trying to get rid of that fear and learning about different spiritual practices and stuff, and getting into like Western esotericism, mostly just as like a form of meditation. I was trying to holistically cure my ADHD by making my attention better, which that's not how that works, but it had much better results than that. But I like I said, I started doing the meditations. I was reading Damien Eccles. I was doing some very basic, like the middle pillar, Golden Dawn stuff.
Mhm.
And so we were starting the stuff, and I was getting into that. It was ramping up. The activity was ramping up, as well as my interest in the stuff. So I got up to a point where I was in my practice. I had like journaling. I was like ready. I was like, okay, I'm going to do the LBRP for the first time. I'm really excited. I wanted to, make sure I had it right. And I did it in that office, and it was great. It was a really cool experience or whatever. And then about a year and a half later, I noticed that I had no nightmares. I hadn't had any knocking. No one had seen hatman. No one had sleep paralysis. The vibes had improved in the house. I mean, it's still the pandemic. There was still a lot going on.
Right.
But there was no more pacing in the attic. There was like the activity was just gone. Like it was completely gone.
I think it went away from the time you did that ritual.
I think I can't, my brain associated it with that later.
Okay.
Only because I couldn't, like I said, I didn't notice it for a while because that's not why I was doing it.
Right.
Like I wasn't testing hypothesis. I didn't think that's, it was just like this thing where I was just trying to do this thing and trying to, get in touch with my inner self and stuff.
So as you're getting into the more esoteric stuff, and the activity is also amping up at the same time,
Yeah.
is there any kind of remnant voice from your youth in the back of your head going, oh, you stepped in, anything like that?
I don't think so. Not anymore. Well, I mean, I don't know. It just kind of depends. There's still certain things I don't mess around with. I don't mess around with I don't really mess around with Galatia or the demon stuff, the Solomonic demon stuff. Cause it's the same thing as the angelic stuff. I don't really do that either. But it just seemed like a thing where I was like, there's a part of me that still probably got a little bit of hangups on that.
But in general, you weren't concerned that like, oh no, I'm stepping into a bad zone or whatever. Doing that.
I do.
I mean, I don't think you are. Let me be clear, but I know that that sort of voice in the back of your head,
Yes.
Yeah, from being raised
I
that
was
way.
for sure. Oh, for sure. I think my biggest fear was doing something wrong. My biggest fear was like not taking everything into consideration.
Like doing the wrong steps or not doing the protection part.
Exactly. And it's like I was worried about following the rules wrong instead of it, because it's all about intentionality with this stuff. It's
right.
like the ritual is to distract you. It's to keep your mind occupied while your unconscious does all the work and stuff.
Ideally, yeah.
Ideally,
no,
yes.
That's interesting that it would manifest that way. And this has more to do with psychology than paranormal, in that I think that maybe is the way it manifests for you. Instead of the voice going, uh-oh, bad stuff, Satan, is maybe like, make sure you do it the right way,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. There is a weird, whatever it is that is going through the unconscious part of my brain for sure.
Yeah. No, it's just an interesting psychological part of it,
The reason I even got into any of it was I got into tarot because when I was 19, I started having crazy dreams, and I started getting into dream analysis. I was reading Freud, and then a friend of mine was like, no, you need to read Jung.
There you go.
And that's what I would have told you. Yes, that started a thing. I have read more Carl Jung than probably any other author. I've read Psychology and Alchemy multiple times. You should see my books are filled with notes and stickers. As a result, I started just doing dream analysis for people just at parties and stuff, just because it was something that would come up and I'd be like, oh, that means this. And it was one of those things where I was doing it to myself. I was trying to figure out what was going on, and the dream started getting crazy when you do that. Once you start doing dream work, it's wild. But I got older and it was harder to do dream work. It was harder to have those dreams just because at the time, I was just smoking way too much weed.
Yeah.
But I still needed to do that unconscious work. And I kind of very gently got into tarot via Hodorowski. He has his own,
oh my gosh.
whole thing. It's the way to do it too.
His documentary, have you seen the documentary? He did on
which yes.
Oh,
It's incredible.
yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, he's incredible. I mean, yeah,
And I'm trying to remember the name of that documentary.
yeah, I have it somewhere.
It came as like a bonus on, I think, Fando and Lease, the DVD, but you can get just the tarot documentary, I think, on Amazon.
I believe I think I have it on I have a collection of his. It's an older collection of some of his first movies, and one of them is Fondo Elise. So I think I have it.
Yeah, I believe it's like a bonus thing that they included, and it's just so. Alejandro Jodorowsky in Paris would hold like free tarot things. It was like one night a week or something, and it's a documentary about that. And the way he uses it, I mean, first of all, my favorite thing is like the future is shit.
Well, yeah.
As someone who, people often offer to do tarot readings for me, and I say no divination. I don't want any hint of the future, not because I'm afraid of it, but because I'm afraid you're wrong, and some part of that's going to get in my subconscious and affect my behavior.
Totally.
So when he said that, immediately I went, okay, he's onto something. And then he shows how he uses it in a very Jungian way, really.
Yes.
And it's absolutely fantastic. I recommend this documentary to everyone. And if I can remember what it's called, I'll put it in the show notes, because it's absolutely fantastic and uses the tarot like no one I've ever seen use it before.
His book, yeah, The Way of the Tarot, that's how I got into it. And it's very imagistic. He also goes into it that he uses a version of the Marseille that's very interesting. It's a very old version. It's circa, I think, 1680s or before that. It's a hybrid of, it's type 1 and type 2. Mm-hmm. Super interesting, but it's also got older stuff. Anyway, I could really nerd out about the tarot, but we don't.
And he's a brilliant artist besides. I mean, just
yes.
Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, but that's the approach I've always taken, because to me, the tarot is it's a fulcrum to the unconscious. And even though I use Golden Dawn decks and I use kind of like Golden Dawn interpretation, sometimes it's supplemental. I give it the intuition, and it's usually the secondary stuff is because all the Golden Dawn attributions it's all the astrology and sometimes the Kabbalah and sometimes Goetia and sometimes these angels. And you can make attributions to all these archetypes and stuff, but it really works best when you're just looking at it and you're just like, that's what this is. Because it's all about context. It's about the spread, about the cards as they talk to each other. And I've had some spooky, I had a really spooky reading I gave myself. And spooky, I mean, like, I picked up the deck. Well, first of all, the deck tricked me into taking it with it to where I was going. I forgot. It was just like I was looking at it, and then somehow it ended up in my bag. And then I was at this house and I did a read. I was doing a reading for myself because I was like, obviously I need to if it's in my bags. And so I like to look at the bottom card sometimes just to see what's there, and sometimes it's weird. So I looked at bottom cards, and it was the Chariot, and it was two major arcana. It was Chariot, and it was the High Priestess. And I was like, cool, that's very memorable. So I shuffled the deck. I have a whole system of shuffling the deck, and I shuffled the heck out of it. I really get in there because I like to get the chaos. The first two cards I drew were the Chariot and the Priestess after I cut the deck, which is crazy. That means they were stayed together during the shuffling, and then they were the two cards on top, which is, for the spread I was doing, it was the cause and the result, and it was the best reading I'd ever had for myself. But anyway, I was just saying, if cards are falling out of the deck, pay attention to that. But anyway, yeah, so I got into the tarot because of the dream interpretation, then that eased me into sort of like the Golden Dawn stuff and reading more about it and just being like, oh, this is just like nerds doing like play acting meditation. Like this is like theater kid, like yoga. You get the robes, you get the incense, you get the sword, and you know what I mean? You're doing a thing, but you're also communicating with like these deep unconscious archetypal parts of you, some pre-language parts of your brain. It does something, you know what I mean? It's wild.
Is it the Jodorowsky constellation? Is that the name of that?
Oh, it might be.
I'm trying to remember. There's a couple documentaries on him, but yeah, highly recommend. The one I'm thinking of, Jean Girard, rather, the artist better known as Mobius or Moebius, the comics artist, who's fantastic.
Yes.
Stunning artwork.
Yes.
Is in it as well. That's the one I'm thinking of. But the Jodorowsky Constellation if that's a different documentary, also worth watching. Like, this guy is brilliant.
So good. After he made The Dance of Reality, he gave free tarot readings to his entire crew, and he put them all up on YouTube. So at the time I was reading tarot, I was watching these videos of him doing these. Oh, he's so good because he's so engaging. He's so much fun to listen to talk. Like, he's just so animated, and he's so insightful. And even if it's a spread where I'm like, I wouldn't have said that at all. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
it works because of the way his brain works. And he's so confident. You're just like, yeah, of course, whatever you say, Hubbo. Like, yeah,
He is a
absolutely.
super confident artist.
Incredibly confident. Yes.
Yeah. And, which can be sometimes off-putting, I think,
I think so.
but he trusts his vision,
He does. It's his vision is the reason why, we had such good sci-fi in the 70s and 80s.
Right. So if people aren't familiar with the movies, Holy Mountain, El Topo, Santa Sangre is like one of my favorites that he did. And
Santa Sangre is one of my favorites too. I love that movie.
yeah, I don't think he likes it that much, but
So good.
yeah, I absolutely love that one. He's done a number of them, that very strange, wonderful films.
Yep. And there was a documentary they made about him. He was going to make Dune in like 75.
Yeah. Yep. He was
And
the original Dune he was supposed to make. He was supposed to be the original guy to make Dune.
yeah. And he put together this ragtag team of superstars that went on to produce movies like Alien and Aliens and The Thing, and like basically, like Dan O'Bannon and H.R. Giger, all these, and Chris Foss, and like all of these artists whose visions became synonymous with an entire franchise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's crazy. It's just like, there's definitely some quote unquote magic going on there.
Yeah,
what
for
I mean?
sure.
Like he was doing something.
For sure. And I derailed you again, but
Yes.
you said his name and I was like, man, that,
It's
might have come
the
up
thing.
one or two other times on Strange Familiars and probably from Malison. That's probably the only other person who's brought him up.
I am a psychonaut. That's how I got into all this stuff. It's, I like the dream world and I like the unconscious and I like getting weird. And surrealism and surrealist art is some of my absolute favorite art, just in general. I love art, through the storytelling in movies and I just love all of it. I love the raw language of the unconscious. It's really fun.
He's also a comic writer. He's absolutely fearless. He doesn't consider it a children's genre.
No.
He tries to make real art with comics, which, again, I completely
He
appreciate
does.
that. Yeah.
He has an entire book called, what is it called? Psychomagic. It's a form of therapy that I can't recommend to anybody because it could probably be way more damaging than anything.
Yeah.
But it's like using like theater magic to cure unconscious ailments. And some of it's like kind of cool, but some of them it's like, hey, if you're bipolar, you should get 5 of your friends to like surround you and protect you while you get naked under a sleeping bag and then they hit you with a bunch of sticks. But I'm like, well, I don't think that's good for bipolar.
Yeah. No one said he's perfect. He's got some pretty wacky ideas.
Grain of salt. You always, you got to take everything in stride, like shit. Don't take your medical advice from, you know what I mean? Yeah. Art advice. Yes.
Yeah. There you go.
Yes.
I interrupted you. You said the tarot, brought the tarot someplace. Is that right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It was a spread that I got. It was a spread that I got right after I did the medical dose of mushrooms, the heroic dose.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And it was when I got, and basically the spread was how you feel right now is going to bite you in the ass. And the only way you're going to get through it is to basically be a tyrant about treating yourself okay. That's basically what it was.
Interesting.
And
so how you feel right now, meaning like during the trip?
Oh, I felt incredible. It was
right, but I mean that's what the read was addressing.
Yes, the read. Yeah, it was exactly. It was addressing that time of just feeling amazing, and I literally got a card the card was contentment, and it was the page of cups, kind of like a burgeoning emotional journey, and then it was a minor arcana card that just basically means contentment.
And did you find that to be true?
It was extremely true.
Yeah.
It was that, and I looked at it. That's why I was terrified, because I was just like, oh man. Because the starting card was a chariot card, which is like, hey, you've got some really good momentum right now. your obstacles right now are the thing that's making you feel real good. And the thing that's going to help you push through is discovering your like an inner power. You know what I mean? Like it was the King of Wands. So it is fire of fire. It is technically like kind of Mussolini energy a little bit, you know, it's a little bit of plowing through and not doing anything, no diplomacy. You're just accomplishing a task and you do it right the first time and that's it. And so I was just like, okay, keep a lookout for that. And basically the next week it was bad. I had a huge crash and
not uncommon. Again, this I've heard this so many times.
Yeah.
Where it's almost, I don't know if it's like a system reset or something, but people will say that they would just feel amazing. And then they have this like just period of almost depression or something afterwards. It felt like the depression just came back with a vengeance.
Yeah, for sure. But it was still different because I had now had the tools to kind of combat that and to kind of pay attention to where my energy was going and how, because that's basically what it was. It was just like, hey, you need to take care of yourself. Like you need to be kind of a tyrant about taking care of yourself and guarding your energy and stuff. Like that's kind of what I assumed from it. Mm-hmm. And that's what I started doing was that I was slipping into old cognitive habits and things. And I was letting myself get pulled into like emotional rabbit holes and just kind of inward. It was so weird. And I had this really weird moment where I was just like, what if this isn't even me? Like, what if I'm picking up something from somebody else or somebody's messing with me? Mm. And then when I had that thought, it was like a image. And then it like the depression kind of stopped. And I was like, oh, weird. So anyway, I'm still doing I'm doing the meditations and stuff. I do the Catholics. I do the Greek version of the Golden Dawn stuff, basically. Perfect. Literally the same thing, but you say everything in Greek and there's a couple of different visualization things. It's from the Order of Atacenton or some, never said, someone's going to get mad if I said it wrong.
I say things wrong all the time.
Anyway, I just
say it wrong confidently.
Yeah, that's right. No, Atacenton or something. Yeah, that's it. But yeah, I have since rejoined. I'm at that level I was when right after the trip. It is something you have to maintain a little bit, but it's so much easier now.
Is your intuition that the tools you were given, or maybe the insight, however you want to phrase it, was the mushrooms, the tarot, or both, some combination thereof?
It was, the tarot was just giving me a heads up about the mushroom thing.
Interesting.
It was just like, hey, pay attention to this. This is going to run out. And the only way you're going to solve this is to do this. And the spread I was using was a Hodorowski spread, by the way. It's called the Hero's Journey spread. Mm-hmm. It's one of my favorite new spreads. Incredible. It's a great check-in spread. If you don't want to ask a question, you're just checking in on yourself. It's where you're at, 2 cards for obstacles, a key, and what your goal is. It's great. It's beautiful. It's simple. 5 cards, boom, beautiful. So yeah, I would say that, I think that tarot was just giving me a heads up. It was just the unconscious just being like, hey, no, the work's not done. This is a constant effort. You have to be kind of uncompromising about where your energy goes and how you're using it and who is using it or who is putting what. But now it's like, now when the house smells like smoke, I know where to look for the fire. And before, the house would just fill up with smoke and I just get overwhelmed and I don't know where I just lay down and just avoid the smoke.
Right.
But now it's like, I know where to look because sometimes it's coming from the window outside. Sometimes it's not even coming from out, sometimes I'm picking up something and my brain is just running with it.
Yeah.
Because it's good at that. It's really good at running and doing rabbit holes and avoiding itself.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think we all have those traits in some measure.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Wow. That conversation took a really interesting turn. Thank you, Joel.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing your stories. If you go back to that basement, I want to know what happens.
You'll be the first one to know. I will send you a full report. I'm going to try to do it. I want to do it real soon. I'm going to try to do it in a couple of weeks, but we'll see. It probably won't be till November. I'm still trying to find a new job right now. So there's a whole thing happening. But
For sure. Well, thanks for sharing your stories.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thanks for listening.
Strange Familiars is brought to you by our patron. Thank you, patrons. We could not make the show without your help. Everybody likes extra content. And if you like Strange Familiars and you want to get extra content, while at the same time helping us make the show, you can go to patreon.com/strangefamiliars and become a patron. All of our patrons get commercial-free versions of the weekly shows, plus extra episodes. We do at least one for our patrons every month, an exclusive full episode of Strange Familiars. Sometimes we do more. Our Patreon patrons also get to take part in an ongoing paranormal experiment. For more information, go to patreon.com/strangefamiliars. We also have an option at Apple Podcasts. The program is called Patron of the Strange there, and our Apple Podcast subscribers get the commercial-free weekly episodes and the bonus episodes monthly. Very soon, we should be activating YouTube memberships. Now, you can subscribe to the channel right now. That's free, and please do, even if you don't listen to the podcast or watch it on YouTube. But when we activate memberships, our YouTube members will get those bonus episodes monthly as well, and some extra footage that we drop for Patreon patrons too. Extra videos that show some of the places we talk about and go on on-site episodes. At YouTube, our channel name is Strange Familiars, youtube.com/@strangefamiliars. And I want to thank all of our patrons, no matter where they're signed up. Thank you so much. We could not do the show without your help. All right, there's no curiosity of the week this week because there's no Allison this week, but I do want to mention that High Strangeness Comics #2 is out. Cover B has my artwork of a screaming Bigfoot. I call it the White-Haired Terrifier, after one of the old historical articles I collected in Bigfoot in Pennsylvania. But no matter what cover you get, I wrote an essay in the back on high strangeness and the Bigfoot phenomena, including a little bit about pandemonium that starts off the essay. You can get High Strangeness #2 directly from us. You can get a signed copy. I'll sign the cover for you. You can get it from Riverbend Comics, riverbendcomics.com, or you can get it at your local comic store. But please get it, and probably help me out if you get cover B, my cover. It's the Big Screamin' Bigfoot. Speaking of our Etsy shop, we have Strange Familiars t-shirts, stickers, and patches there. We have copies of my books. If you get them from us on Etsy, they will come signed. Artwork, prints, and originals, including the artwork for tonight's show. Some of my music is there. Allison has various bits of ephemera and more up there. Go ahead and check it out. Our shop name is Lost Grave. But if you go to Etsy and you type Strange Familiars in the search bar, you should see our stuff come up. There's also links to our Etsy shop in the show notes to almost every episode at strangefamiliars.com. Purchasing stuff from our Etsy shop is another way to help out the podcast, and you get some cool stuff besides. Well, that's it for this episode of Strange Familiars. We'll be back soon with more. Strange Familiars is a production of Dark Holler Arts. Intro and background music is by Stone Breath. If you want to hear more or purchase music, you can go to stonebreath.bandcamp.com. Strange Familiars is on Instagram at Strange Familiars, one word. We're on Facebook, facebook.com/Strange Familiars. You can join the Strange Familiars gathering group there as well. For Strange Familiars merch, go to strangefamiliars.com/merch. And for everything else, links to everything we do, go to strangefamiliars.com.